Interest in Mark Robinson is a reminder that tepid conservatism won't win elections. That's the headline in a recent column at CarolinaJournal.com. Its author is Ray Nothstine, opinion editor for Carolina Journal. And you look at Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson and the buzz and interest that surround him and take some lessons from that. What are the lessons?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of tension. We've had a lot of clicks at Carolina Journal on these U.S. Senate stories. Who's going to run in North Carolina, whether it's Robinson, Laura Trump, Pat McCrory, Ted Budd, all these different candidates, Mark Walker. And there's just a ton of attention around Mark Robinson. I had my father call me, who lives up in northern Michigan, saying that the local radio host up there spent 20 minutes talking about Mark Robinson and his appeal in the Republican Party, his appeal to conservatives. He has a national brand. I think a lot of people out of North Carolina may not realize that his brand is so national because there's just interest in him. Obviously, he's the black conservative. Maybe in Michigan, because John James has been a candidate there may be some cross interest in Robinson as well. So I just think that the lessons that you can really learn out of this are the electorate is hungry for people that are going to make these defining characteristics or contrasts on the political issues. And Robinson does that, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him or not. He draws clear contrasts on so many issues that face voters. And I think there's a hungry appeal for that, especially in this very partisan era where the left is pushing back on so many cultural issues. If he's willing to talk about that stuff and create a different worldview, that has a lot of appeal.
You make an interesting comparison in this column between Mark Robinson and the governor of Florida, who seems to be striking some of the same chords.
Right. I mean, DeSantis, when he ran for governor, he kind of was, he was behind in Florida. He was a low-key guy, and he's kind of taken up the mantle in this post-Trump world as being a little bit Trump-like. He's very conservative in his policies, and the COVID issue has highlighted, has springboarded him into the national discussion. But DeSantis does this too. He is able to take issues, he pushes it back against narratives, and he draws clear contrasts. And I think voters, particularly Republican primary voters, are very, very attracted to that. He's shot up in the polls for president. He was somewhere around 2 to 3% last year, and then now is like tied with Mike Pence, in a race without Trump, if you're not factoring in Trump. So he's obviously has tons of appeal. And I think partly, too, he has been attacked so much in the media and has been effective in that pushback that a lot of primary voters and conservatives out there really like that aspect of him. And there's just a little bit of machismo to him, I think, that has a lot of appeal right now.
At one point in this column, you write, the era of tepid conservatism will continue to shrink as long as the left continues their headlong assault towards remaking society, not just relating to economic redistribution, but cultural issues where the goalposts are constantly changing as well. Is that a real key to why Mark Robinson, Ron DeSantis, and political officials like them are getting such buzz, is that they are seen as the counterweight to the crazy left?
Absolutely. And they're willing to talk about those issues because, look, I mean, some Republicans, they're afraid of upsetting corporations who have gone very woke for the most part. Big corporations will go in and put a lot of legislative pressure on a governing body and tell you, if you don't toe our line, then we are going to make life miserable for you. We will not donate to your campaigns, to your party. And so there's just a lot of pressure on those individuals and just lawmakers in general. So these candidates are willing to talk about. I mean, Mark Robinson gave a speech at the Moore County Republican Reagan dinner. I think it was April 17th or April 18th. I don't remember the actual date, but it was last week. And he was very aggressive in some of the things he was saying about the Democratic Party and their racist history. You're not going to have many politicians, and maybe he can say that because he's African American and he gets a little bit more cover on that, but you're not going to have many politicians bringing that up, and Robinson does. And I think voters like that because they like to see somebody push back against the narrative that has kind of been shoved down their throat, and they're fed up with it. And if these politicians are doing that, they're, I think, broadening in a way. A lot of people would argue that they're narrowing conservatism and making it a little more red meat, but I think they're broadening it in a way. We're seeing a lot of political realignment now. And so that broadening mechanism where I'm going to talk about issues that maybe aren't brought up into the public square, and I'm going to kind of carry this for you. I'm going to take the beating on this. I'm going to be the one. This is part of Trump's appeal, right? He was able to take these issues to the public square, take the beating. He often said this. He goes, they hate you. They hate me, but they really hate you. And that was kind of part of his appeal, that he would just take this beating for them. And maybe Trump liked it, I don't know. But he was willing to go out there and be a street fighter for folks. And I think there's just so much appeal around that today. And, if somebody is more of a tepid conservative and only wants to maybe talk about economic issues or talk about the party from maybe a more materialistic background only, then I think they're going to have trouble in the primary, no matter their experience, no matter where they are in terms of just ability to raise money. Obviously, those things are going to help in perpetuity, but there's just a lot of missed calculation in terms of reading the electorate.
The headline of the column, once again, interest in Mark Robinson is a reminder that tepid conservatism won't win elections. You'll find that column at carolinajournal.com. Its author is Ray Nothstine. He is opinion editor at Carolina Journal. Thanks so much.
Thank you.